Hello? Why can't I hear anything? Why are the levels should be
Hold on,
going
Brad,
up to
shut
the
up.
middle?
So you don't hear anything
Barely
because this got
peaking.
pulled out.
So many things wrong with this crap.
Quiet on the set.
You're doing that on purpose.
This is how I say it.
One more time, but not as facetious. Imagine it. Use your mind's eye.
Okay, everybody, quiet on the set.
Film Reverie Podcast, take 1.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Film Reverie Podcast. My name is Michael Beckmeyer, and I'm here today with my friend Brad, who is Brad Kingston, who is a filmmaker slash. He's a slashy. He's got like everything.
Yeah, I'm a small person.
We're also joined by my good friend and film composer Rob Gokee from LA.
Don't oversell our friendship. You like to add that accent at the end of my name. It's just Gokee, not Gokee.
Gokee. I always say Gokee because there's 2 E's.
You do.
Gokee.
I'm going to call you Beekmeyer from now on.
What everybody else does.
I think Goku would be better.
So say it for me again.
Gokee.
Gokee.
No accent, no nothing, just straight up, yeah.
Well, I'm not adding an accent. I'm just emphasizing the 2.
Mikael.
Can you do a Kamehameha?
Nobody knows what you're talking about right
Trust me, people know.
Okay.
Just not you two.
Introduction. I'm a writer, a filmmaker, a director, teacher,
Douchebag.
podcaster. And, I know Rob because we've worked... Well, first of all, I know Rob from Twitter, like everybody else. I don't know. We've probably known each other from Twitter maybe 6 years.
Did y'all work together?
Like 2008, 2009, yeah.
2008, when everybody's lives were completely different than they are now.
So you're Twitter friends, and
we're Twitter friends. We've actually never met in person.
Oh, okay.
And we've collaborated.
I prefer to keep it that way.
We prefer to keep it that way.
But why is he here on the show?
He's here because he is a film composer, and we've worked together twice.
Thank you. That's what I was.
Well,
doing.
you keep interrupting. How was I going to get to it if
because
you
talk forever.
So he's a film composer, and he's here because he's got like this legitimate,
he knows
job.
shit, and he lives in California, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what are you working on, Rob?
At the moment, this podcast.
What else?
I'm finishing up scoring a feature and starting a short at the same time, and hoping to wrap both of them up in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. And you
in time for another feature and possibly another one.
So the podcast is called Film Reverie, and the idea behind Film Reverie is that we are going to watch movies, talk about movies, and talk about making movies. And the word reverie basically means like being stuck in a constant dream state about something, like basically like daydreaming. And that describes perfectly how I feel about movies and making movies. It's like I'm constantly in a state of just sort of imagining. And, so that's what we're here to talk about. We figured we're going to be having these conversations anyway, and we'll just record them.
But I want to, just for the people who have no idea who the hell we are, tell me, tell me a little bit about yourself,
Well,
what do you do? Why do you care? Why are we why?
I'm a writer and a director. I'm a filmmaker, a creative person. I've been doing television and video production and filmmaking for since '94. It's actually 20 years.
And you've taught it as well.
Yeah, I've been teaching. I'm a teacher right now. I teach high school, which is loads of fun. What about you?
Well, I'm kind of the same. I haven't been as active as you are because I'm handicapped. I'm disabled. Seriously, though, I have a bone disease and crap and like quasi-motor or whatever. But seriously, I've actually, Mike and I were in the same class like back in '94 or back in the day.
Yeah. We've worked together in one form or another for like 20 years now.
Yeah.
We were students and then we were filmmakers together. And
so I've worked on a lot of his stuff. We've worked on everything we could think of and agree on that we thought would be fun. And then I ended up teaching as well, and learning everything about video, audio, film, whatever.
Yeah. We just love talking about movies. It's like it never doesn't come up.
Yeah.
And so now we're to Rob. I want to know why Rob.
Who the
bleep?
are you?
I don't watch movies. I watch television.
I know you do. I know.
Television is just shorter movies.
Yeah. Where the bleep
serialized movies.
Where the bleep did you come from, Rob Gokee?
Well, I mean, I've always been interested in music, and as a kid, I think one of the first records I ever owned was the Empire Strikes Back score from John Williams on vinyl, back before there were hipsters. And so I've always loved that kind of music, and played instruments since I was 15 or 16, but didn't really put those two things together, and realize that was a career and something I wanted to do until much later.
So how old were you? Did you say 15?
Yeah, I think 15 when I started playing guitar.
Oh, so you started playing. Cool. And so when did you decide you wanted to be a composer? Like to compose music for movies?
Not till when I was in college and I was taking classes in music and in theory, I liked playing guitar. I did not like playing in front of people. So I thought, what job can I have in music that doesn't require me to be in a band? And there was no way I wanted to teach, because who wants to teach high school? No, my fear was that I would be teaching fourth grade band and then just want to hang myself in the basement.
Right.
Dude, trust me. Even working with adults, you want to hang yourself.
Yeah, that's probably true. So at the time, I was actually watching the show Buffy the Vampire Slayer and started listening to the score, and realized, wait a minute, that's a job. Somebody's doing that job. Why am I not looking for that job? Yeah. And so I researched it, and then it just kind of fell into place, and I figured out that's what I wanted to do.
Can I ask you?
Then I could write music by myself in a room and give it to people and don't have to be there when they listen.
You can rock out. You don't need the rock and roll hair. I was wondering if the baldness and the rock and roll hair directly coincided with you not being in bands anymore.
I had the rock and roll hair at 19 or 20 that was down to the middle of my back.
Yeah.
Sadly, there's no photographic evidence of that.
I have hair down the middle of my back and down to my butt.
Yeah.
I'm an Ewok.
It doesn't count when it's growing from your back.
Yeah, it's not growing from your back.
Goes all the way down and up the other side.
Let the man speak.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
The visual is enough to stop my track.
Right about bedtime tonight, I'm going to send you a picture of Brad smiling at you.
I wanted to ask you, though, do you find yourself, because I've sat and watched movies with Mike before, and I've heard him humming with some of the scores and the things going on, and I used to do that, too, because I would, go kind of jazz creative or whatever, and I would go off on alternate notes and then do how I would compose it in my head and kind of hum it. I'm wondering, did you find yourself doing that same kind of thing?
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of a hazard of the job when I watch movies. I'm more, the score stands out to me more than probably anything else, even when I'm trying to pay attention to other things. I'm very aware of the score, whether it's good or bad or indifferent. Because it's just my job, so I'm always listening for it. In the same way that I have a friend who's a makeup artist, and I've watched a movie with her, and she'll just randomly call out, "Oh, that person's makeup is horrible." I'm like, what? Okay, I didn't really notice until now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I listen to more film score than anything else, so I'm clearly I hum it more than the average normal person.
I wanted to know, though, does the score, let's say it's the greatest movie of all time, does the score sometimes ruin a movie for you?
I don't know if it's ever ruined a movie for me. Sometimes there are times where there's too much score. I feel like as a kid, like I loved Raiders of the Lost Ark, and as a film composer, when I watch it now, the score is so loud and so in your face.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, oh, calm down, score. It's like too much. But before I started doing this job, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, it never jumped out.
So it's interesting. Yeah. There are plenty of scores where the score is amazing and the film is horrible. Or the film is a film I would never see, but I love the composer, so I'll purchase the score, and just never watch the film.
Yeah, he's always listening. It's like he's listening to stuff that I know he may not have even seen, but if a score comes out, he gets it. So, okay, so I have a question for you that I think I've probably asked you before, but we're gonna ask you again. Okay, so when you and I work together, I have a mild musical background. I played a musical instrument for a while, so I at least have a basis for.
Your penis doesn't count. So go ahead.
Your penis has been capped? What did he say?
It doesn't count, he said.
Oh.
As an instrument.
Playing an instrument. Catch up, Brad.
The skin flute.
The skin. So.
I've logged in thousands of hours playing my instrument.
Quit. So, I'm trying to ask a real question here.
Go ahead.
So
I've had multiple teachers.
So I can actually, when I sat down and you and I talk, I can say I know like how to speak to you through musical terms, right?
Right.
Sort of. Like you are way more, up there than I am, but I can at least say this or that, and you, at least I feel like I'm not. It's like it's making sense. What about, how do you do that with a director or a filmmaker who has zero musical background? They really have no understanding of what it is you do. How do you do that?
We talk, and this happens more, I would say 90% of the people don't have musical knowledge in the way, in terms of like how they speak, especially the directors I work with. And they'll think that they do, that they have to talk in music terms.
Yeah.
And we just talk in emotion, and use like adjectives, and I have them describe what they want to feel for that scene, or or describe the music, but emotionally, and not, I would rather speak that way than have a director go, oh, here, I want to modulate to this key, and then go over to here, and then this, I want the octave staying here. Like, that would drive me nuts. I'd much rather someone said, I want this scene to be sad, but not too sad. I want it sad, like, and then you start asking questions like, what instruments do you hear for this movie, or do you like, and what do you not like? So I know what to use and not to use, so I can start developing the palette for the film.
I guess it kind of gets like when you're directing actors, it's really bad. It's considered bad form to tell the actor exactly how you want them to say a line. So telling you what, like you said, mode to use, or what, put a half note here on a C, and all, telling you to do that would be kind of the same thing.
Exactly.
Have you ever
or telling a writer exactly what lines to write if you're looking over the writer's shoulder?
Have you ever worked with a director who, and you don't have to answer these questions if they're getting too close to home.
Yeah, you just stay silent if you want.
Have you ever worked with a director who knew too much about music and didn't know how to keep the boundaries between telling you what to do?
Too controlling because he knows too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy with a short film I did called Impasse.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry. Douche.
Yeah, I have. I worked with a director before who I won't name that like played the music, who went home and recorded what he wanted himself and then brought it in, and then was like, use this.
This
like,
sounds
great.
like something I might do.
It sounds like something Brad would do. Brad would
do
shake
it
his head.
exactly this way.
Yeah, Brad would
just
shake
make
his
this
head.
sound a little better.
Brad was like, yeah, just have this thing in my head where I know what I want or what it should be, so I'm just telling you. You can do whatever, but I'm going to, So why didn't he do the music himself then? Because he didn't have the gear to like really do a full score, or?
Yeah, I think that was probably more it. Or like he had the idea, like here's the melody, now make it big.
Now make it big.
But then I'm like, well, this isn't really my theme then is it? It's really your theme that I
Yeah.
helped write. That's only in like 8 years, though. I feel like that's only happened once or twice. Every once in a while, a director will want to come in and will ask, "Can I just come in and sit down while you and we could write it together?" I'm like, "No, this is not. We're not writing a musical.
Yeah.
We're not a team.
We're not a duo. Yeah.
That's like asking." I think they think of it in terms of editing. You know, the director will sit down with an editor and they'll work together through stuff, even though the editor will still go off and do things on their own. The director will come in and sit down, and it's a little more collaborative in that way. But you have to think of scoring like writing. Like you wouldn't stand over the writer's shoulder and go, "No, not that word. Use a different word."
Some people.
Yeah,
would,
that
but
one.
yeah, it's not a good idea. Yeah. So.
So I have to educate directors occasionally.
So you
and
just
go,
have,
no, it doesn't work that way.
You just have to say no.
Right. There are parts of my job where, for instance, if it's already written and the director comes in and says, "Oh, can we start that cue a little earlier? Can we you move that hit over 3 or 4 frames?" That stuff I can do with the director sitting here.
Yeah.
Because it's not actual writing. It's just it's a little more like editing.
It's like tweaking. Yeah.
It's more like music editing. Oh yeah, let's take this part and move it here, and this part and move it here, and see how those play together. Yeah. It's the creative part that is more of a solitary thing.
Have you ever had a director come in and go, "Okay, hold it. This is how I envision it. You gotta reverse it and have it go whoop, 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 and then I want a lady screaming in the background."
And you look at him like, I don't have no idea what you just said.
Yes, that happens. And then you just nod and go, "Yeah, no problem.
And then
I'll do that when you go."
Then you write whatever you were going to write, and they're like, "I love it."
That's exactly what I wanted.
I got a note once that was, "We want this to sound like a hipster with disposable income." And I was on a conference call, so I'm like, "No problem." And then I hung up and I went, "What the hell is that?"
Okay, so one of the things we want to talk
Hipsters
about.
don't listen to film score.
Okay, so go way back. What was the first movie everybody saw that made them fall in love with movies?
This is for everyone?
Yeah, you, me,
Okay.
and Rob. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Rob first, or
Rob can go first.
since he's been doing most of the talking.
Well, he is our guest. We're supposed to be.
Sorry.
He's supposed to be talking.
Empire
Empire
Strikes Back.
Back. You know, I. Okay, so what was it about Empire that brought it out? I mean, I don't disagree, but.
Well, even at a young age, that was always my favorite Star Wars film of the 3 because it was the darkest.
Yeah.
I just didn't
agree.
realize that's why I liked that better. But I felt like John Williams' score, like he just did a great job at matching all of the on-screen drama and action. And it was the first film score I ever owned that I bought, so I owned separately and was able to listen to outside of a film.
That's interesting. Interesting.
Oh
it
yeah,
is.
you're being yoga. You're not being rude. You're being yoga. Yoda.
Yoga.
Yoga.
Yoga. But no.
Dude, I don't think I saw the Star Wars movies until they were out on VHS, and someone made me sit down and watch them. Some family friend said to me, and I was like maybe 10 or 11, "You haven't seen Star Wars?" And I said, "No, what's that?" Like he probably said some Yoda thing.
That's like, how have you not seen this?
How have you not seen this? And
Watch this, you must.
and watch this,
you
you
must.
and I sat down and of course instantly, had the same
Yeah.
reaction that everybody has to them. What about you, Brad? What was your first movie?
Yeah, I thought about it. I think the first movie was, I'm gonna make it 2 movies because they're directed by the same guy. The first movie I fell in love with, and it was Terminator. And then my father was over at a party or something. He was watching the movie Aliens with a bunch of people, and he thought I was too young for it. But I kind of snuck in and saw what they were watching and was like, "Oh my god!" and forced my way in. And after that, Aliens was like,
Yeah, it's the one.
it's like, this is what's in my head. This is, because I've always had creative brain, like movies in my head, the weirdest effed up dreams.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I was like, that is, oh my god, that is what I want to do.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how it's done or what's going on, and I became obsessed with horror movies and stuff.
So
ever
it was
since.
your first movie that you fell in love with, and also the first movie that made you want to make movies?
Yeah, I guess Terminator was a gateway drug movie.
Yeah, the gateway drug.
and then Aliens just cemented it.
I feel like
Aliens was the blue meth.
Yes.
I feel a little shallow because you guys have both really like Star Wars is an obvious thing, you know, and you have like the dark horror
James
movie or whatever,
Cameron,
James Cameron stuff. But mine is Top Gun. I was thinking about it just the other day. And I realized that Top Gun was the first movie that I saw as a kid, and I think it was like 11 or 12. And I saw it in theaters. My parents took us to see it and everything. That I was like, that was the first time I'd had like a reaction to a movie that I was like, I love movies. Watching movies is so much fun. And that movie just sort of, I described it the other day as it grabbed my 12-year-old imagination and just like ran with it.
Dude, you just gave me a old memory.
Good.
It's like a blocked memory. I just remembered.
I'm glad we're here to be your therapist, Brad.
Dude, E.T. was my first movie like that. I literally, after that movie, I did the voice.
Mm-hmm.
I was right here, whatever. My father had owned a costume shop and made me.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And put the thing on me. I won a costume contest as E.T. He put a light pen inside the glove finger, the E.T. finger, so that I could click it and light it up. And I did the voice inside the costume and won a costume contest. It was totally E.T.
How old were you?
I have no idea. That's what I'm saying.
Just like a little kid. Okay.
Yeah.
27.
That's all. 27. That's awesome. He's not.
It was last week.
He's not much taller. He's not much taller.
Wow.
I just wish my neck could grow like that.
So that segues me into what is the first movie that you saw that made you want to make movies? Is it the same or is it something different?
Whoever
wants to go. Rob can go.
Rob needs to go because I have to think about
it. Well, it wasn't a movie that made me want to score things. It was TV, and it goes back to two different shows. It was the X-Files when it was on.
Yeah.
Because I was very aware of that score.
Yeah.
And I remember I used to watch and play along and try and play along to that score with my guitar, and then I would use his ambient synthy score and play a guitar melody over the top while I watched X-Files. And then Buffy. Buffy was the show that made me want to score television.
It was the shizzle bam zip zap snap.
So what is it about television that has your heart?
It's the serialized nature of TV. It's the fact that you've got 24 episodes in a season to take themes and expand them and tell all these character stories, and then you get to come back for multiple seasons. So it, as opposed to a movie which is very self-contained, sequels aside, TV, you get to live with those characters for a longer period of time. I've always liked that better. I've always liked that better than just the in and out nature of film, where it's the story is so much smaller.
I agree, because in the movies they got to kind of compound things and rush things and skip a little character development. Like, for example, I think it was the third Star Wars movie, is Episode 3, which is really the sixth movie, but there was no believable transition for Anakin going to the dark side. Like, 1 minute he just got revenge for the people that killed his mother or whatever, and then the next thing you know, he's killing little kid Jedis.
Little Jedis?
Right.
Yeah, it's like, what? Now he's...
I totally agree with you. I really like that scene. That's probably, of the prequels, that's my favorite prequel because of how dark he goes, but I totally agree that it all gets rushed.
Exactly.
I just wish that there was more time spent between... I feel like he's not nearly as dark in the second one, and then the third one, suddenly we're like, and he's there.
Right, because it had to get there because we knew what happens in Episode 4. It's kind of like it didn't surprise us at all. So we just like, this is the one where he turns into Darth Vader because we know there's this person that turns into Darth Vader. And so it was almost just unfolded, like, obviously,
Yeah,
in a way.
it was unnatural.
It was unnatural. It was a rush.
But that's because, like you said, there wasn't enough time for us to get into the character, and they had to cut out whatever scenes that would get us there to where we're like, okay, I can see how he got there.
Okay, so it's TV. It was X-Files. Great choice, by the way. Both of those shows are like early favorites
classics.
of mine. Oh yeah, classics. What about you, Brad?
I'd have to be honest. There wasn't. I'd have to say, movies like Matrix and
The Matrix,
Aliens, Terminator 2, that were just mind-blowing. I mean, they were intelligent, and they made sense, because I have a very analytical, scientific mind, and a movie will be ruined if they're doing something science-y, but then they try and explain it with technobabble, and it actually ends up being magic. And then it's like, that doesn't make any sense. And then, and I hate it. But movies that are just perfect and they make complete and total sense, like what James Cameron does, it just, when I started seeing that, oh, man, there's a severe lack of, movies that make sense and that are good, I saw this big void. And then when I saw the really good ones, like Matrix is right now my all-time favorite movie of all time, because when I saw that, I was like, if I was ever going to make a movie that was just downloaded from my brain onto paper and it made it'd be Matrix. So I was kind of forced and compelled to show everybody, look, this is, it's like I wanted to correct all the mistakes and all the bad stuff that I've seen, and so it's not really one movie. It's just like the void of good movies that really compelled me to want to make movies.
That's the thing, is like you talk to these other filmmakers, like you don't talk to them, but you hear like Scorsese, Tarantino, all those people, they will all say, you have to make the movie you want to see.
There you go, yes.
So, like, it doesn't mean that the other movies aren't good or that there are problems or mistakes or whatever, but the idea is nobody's quite made Pulp Fiction yet, so I'm going to go make Pulp Fiction. And then that is how it stands out.
Then you see Pulp Fiction, you're like, yes!
Yeah. For me, it was, and it's weird, it's another sort of genre thing that like, for people that know me know that, like, it seems like they'd be really surprised to hear me say these choices, because I'm like the artsy guy who like wants to do things that aren't quite, pretentious or whatever.
Like you introduced me. We went to Enzion and watched that that dark movie with Marlon Wayans and.
Oh yeah, this is Rob Gokee's
Requiem.
Favorite. Yeah, Requiem.
It's my favorite.
For a
It's his
Dream.
favorite movie.
Oh
It's
my
his favorite
God.
movie.
If Matrix never came out, Requiem for a Dream would be my favorite movie of all time.
I always tell people that's my favorite movie in the world, and it's the most horrible movie I've ever seen.
Exactly.
It's not horribly done, but like it's just such an ugly film.
Yeah,
but
and it's
it's art. It's
yes.
Oh my God.
Agreed.
And when the refrigerator comes to life and starts trying to eat her, it's just so incredible.
I've actually had nightmares as a kid with things like that coming at me, with my mother's head on top of it.
And then I watched Noah, and I'm like, what happened?
Yeah, you didn't.
Not like Requiem at all.
It's not like Requiem at all. Okay, so for me, it's like, believe it or not, when I was 18 years old, I saw the Scorsese version of Cape Fear, remake of Cape Fear. And that is the movie that, like, I remember sitting in that movie. I'd seen it 3 or 4 times in theaters. Like, I went with different friends. And at some point in time on a rewatch, I remember seeing Robert De Niro, like, pull himself up with all the tattoos and everything. And then when he was leaving jail, he walked straight into the camera. I don't know if any of this remember. He's leaving prison right before he gets out to go start, harassing Nick Nolte and his family. And he walks straight into the lens and it cuts to black. I remember thinking, I want to make movies. I mean, I had like an epiphany moment where it was like, this is what I want to do. And it happened in phases because but prior to that, I'd had an inkling that I might want to be a writer, and that's when I saw When Harry Met Sally. I was like, listen to the way people talk in this movie, like people, to be able to put these words down on a page, somewhere between When Harry Met Sally and Pulp and Cape Fear. I like somewhere had like the self-realization.
Pop quiz. Favorite line from When Harry Met Sally?
How long do you like to be held after? And she says, and she doesn't say anything, and he says, all night, right? You see, somewhere between 30 seconds and all night is your problem. And she says, I don't have a problem. And he looks at her blankly and says, yeah, you do.
See, I like that's a great line when you can repeat it and laugh at it.
20 years later. And then, of course, things like Reservoir Dogs came out, and then Pulp Fiction, and those movies basically changed my life. So, anyway, so that's that. Those are them.
Those are them.
Those are them.
Them or those. But what are those doing with them?
So, let me think for a second here. This is another pause in the storyline. This is where we're supposed to talk to Jeannie, but she wasn't able to talk to us. She was gonna call in and do it.
Dude, you broke the third wall.
I know. I paused.
I know. Good job.
Look at my notes. Why don't we jump to what movies are out now that we want to see?
Okay.
3, 2.
You don't want to talk about Kickstarter campaigns?
And by the way,
we could. I don't have anything positive to say.
I have a little critique here, Mike. In audio, you're supposed to say 3, 2, and leave 1 blank, so you have a space between the 2 and when you start talking.
But
you don't go 3, 2, 1, blah 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 blah.
I don't,
because you can't. It's so hard to edit.
Because I don't do that.
It's like a 2-pop. I go 3. You don't just do the 1.
I go 3, 2, 1, and then I think 0, and then I speak.
Yeah, but that didn't happen last time. May I make a request to just not
Shut
do
the
one?
fuck up. Okay, we're gonna go to what movies are out now that we want to see. 3, 2, blank pause.
You didn't say 1, so I didn't know when to go.
Okay, everybody.
Just do it normal. Just do it.
Okay, so okay, cool. So that's cool. So a lot of what we want to do in this show is like we're not really doing it in the first episode. We want to have people like Rob on where we talk to them about filmmaking, but we also want to talk about movies that are out, stuff that makes us want to go to the theater. And Rob has already said he doesn't go to the theaters very much, but do you have any desire to see Sin City, Rob?
No, because I didn't really care about the first one, and the second one, by the way, is bombing. Did you see the numbers? They're expecting 15 million this weekend, and they're going to hit 5 or 6.
Wow, I did not see that.
And the thing cost 60 to 70 to make.
Wow, I wonder what it is.
So
what are people's?
I don't know. I thought it looked pretty. I just didn't like. It was one of those films where I saw it and went, "Oh yeah, that was cool," but never gave it a second thought. When the second one was coming out, I never thought, "Oh, I want to see that."
I never look at, like, I have this thing where I don't look up a movie until after I've seen it because I don't want to accidentally see something. People don't know. For me, a spoiler is, hey, there's something coming at the end that you don't know about. I won't spoil it for you, but telling me that there's something coming at the end is a spoiler, so I don't look it up.
By the way, trailers are like that for me. Yeah. I can see a trailer for any movie and figure out the beginning, middle, and end, who dies, whatever, because they even just a flash of something, and I'm compelled to figure it out, and then I'm like, oh, this is what happens.
If you see a trailer where you have to fill in the blanks, consider yourself lucky, because trailers these days give you the whole story.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so no Sin City. What about, hey, Rob, I've seen it lately in terms of what normally I would say 0 because I go to the movies like twice a year and I would see everything at home. But I have seen Apes and Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh my God, that was a great movie.
Guardians or Apes?
I thought it
Guardians.
was good. Yeah. I didn't think it was as great as everybody. A lot of people are saying like it's the best Marvel movie ever, and I can name 4 or 5.
They say that,
Marvel movies I like better than
exactly.
They say that because it's out right now.
It's and
people have.
I thought it was. it was fun, and it was exactly what I expected. It was like spaceships and action and things blowing up and
80s
like
music.
witty dialogue
Yeah.
and it was funny, but I didn't feel. And I read the comic, so I just didn't feel that there was a ton of character development. But in a movie like that, you just can't
Don't have
get
time.
a ton. It's like the Avengers.
Yeah.
My only complaint about the Avengers the first time I watched it was there's not enough character development. But then I realized that's what all the individual movies are for. Like that's where you're going to get
you had
more
like 4 prequels.
Tony Stark,
Yeah.
or more Steve Rogers, and so that's fine. You watch the Avengers because you want to see them save the world from an alien menace.
I saw it, and I just so that everybody knows, I do not go see. And I feel like I need to make this announcement. I do not go see a movie in 3D unless it's something like Martin Scorsese shot it in 3D. I'm gonna go see it that way, or you know what I mean.
3D is so not.
It's not.
There yet.
It's not my thing. I don't like it.
I hate it.
It takes me out of the movie because I'm sitting there and I get sucked into the whole filmmaker part, like looking at how interesting that one little thing is, but it sucks me out of the story. It does not put me into the story. It sucks me out of it.
The details are ruined a lot of times when there's fast motion going on, and the frame rate isn't 3D frame rate isn't keeping up with the visual, and all of a sudden my brain hurts, and I have to take my glasses off because I'm like, what? And I couldn't see any detail.
Yeah,
it just ruins the detail. I'd rather put it on a flat screen so I can enjoy the beauty. Because it's just so distracting and
it just takes me out of the whole thing. Anyway, so when I saw Guardians, I saw it in 3D because I got socially shamed into going to see it with a group of people. It's like, oh, come on, don't you want to go see it in 3D? I'm like, don't you idiots know that 3D isn't better?
No.
3D is worse, and I'm going to be miserable and unhappy, and I'm going to complain about it the whole time.
Yes.
But, anyway, we did. But it's an enjoyable story. It's funny.
It's a great popcorn movie.
I ate popcorn while I watched it.
Yeah, I agree.
Here's my thing about critics and reviewing movies. I think that, one, you need to go in understanding what kind of movie it is. You can't compare Guardians of the Galaxy to like Citizen Kane or Requiem for a Dream. You got to know what it is and critique it for what it is. What is it trying to be? Who's their audience? Is it hitting that and doing that? Because there are fun movies that you just want to have fun, which a lot of action movies are, and then there are movies with I don't want to say a message, but something. What was it used to be called?
Like a social significance.
Social significance. Okay. So to me, Guardians of the Galaxy, for what they were trying to do, the audience it was for, and the story, I thought they nailed it. And I'm very knowledgeable in the Marvel universe and all of that.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to make a movie like that and please the fans and not screw it up too much, because I'm so glad directors have learned lately to put their ego aside and not go, oh, let's change this and let's change that because it should be like the it is what it is. It's as good as it is because of the writing and all of that.
The writing and the property owners like Marvel have been. I feel like, and I'm no expert about comics and anything like that, but I do feel like they've been way more protective of their property,
right?
In a good way.
That's what I mean. So when I said it was a great movie, I'm saying, in its context for what it was supposed to be, what they're trying to accomplish, it in its genre, I guess. Yeah. They nailed it. It was very enjoyable. If you sat there and you weren't trying to find fault, it was fun. Yeah. And there were a lot of great lines in the movie. Yeah.
So,
not to mention Zoe Saldana is hot in any color.
Any color, yeah, she's gorgeous.
Purple, pink,
that's true.
She's gorgeous.
Whatever.
So Rob, you did see it, right? So what was your favorite part?
Yes.
Let's just say your favorite element, your favorite part, and don't say the score. Pick something else.
I'm trying to think. I thought I was going to hate Bradley Cooper as Rocket.
Me too.
Because I don't normally like talking animals, but I actually enjoyed Hay and Groot.
That's
probably the most.
Yeah.
And goes to my point. They nailed it. Those parts. Bradley Cooper nailed raccoon voice.
The raccoon voice.
He did. It didn't sound like Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
No, it did not actually.
I just thought that it was good that I felt like, and I think it was the sense of humor. Not that it had witty one-liners or anything like that. I just felt like it was also a thing that wasn't taking itself too seriously.
Yeah,
It was
they
just
were
being,
making fun
Right.
of
it feels
them.
like
Yes.
they were having fun because they realized that a person sucked off of planet Earth in the 80s who grows up being stuck in the 80s, but he's still having like the space odyssey thing.
Yeah, like
is kind of absurd.
And I have to say, again,
Right.
to go along with that, there's a scene where he like runs into an alien that looked like a Ninja Turtle, and I saw it, and it was just a couple seconds. Like it looks like a Ninja Turtle, and he like bashes ran over and said, "Take that, Ninja Turtle!" And I was like, "Yes!" He so nailed it.
So I mean, I don't like to really like bash movies that I didn't like. Normally, I will just say it's just not my kind of thing.
Yeah,
So-
I think if you're gonna bash a movie, it should be because of technical, things,
Yeah.
not because you just didn't like it.
Right. So rarely will you ever hear me say, "Oh, that movie was a this and that," and it just totally I guess
Yeah.
lambast is the word. Like the
A lot
movie.
of critics do that.
But because I honestly think that you like or dislike a movie not if it's good or bad, but because you have some sort of like connection. Like maybe somebody said something that really got your attention, and that's what it was. That's what it is. So many times for me when I see a movie that I like. It's not because it's a flawless movie. It's because you have an emotional reaction to, the story, like whether it was technically perfect or not.
Right.
Right.
I saw Boyhood. I don't think either of you have seen it, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
Boyhood. Does everybody know what it is?
I've seen
Yeah,
it
I
played.
do.
Okay. Boyhood is. I loved the idea of the movie. I didn't love the movie itself.
Can you explain for people who don't know what you're talking about?
Boyhood is this movie where they made it over the course of 12 years, and the kid who was the main character I think he was 6 when they started shooting, and they was shot for 2 weeks, and then they'd take a year off and they'd shoot for 2 more weeks, and they did that for 12 years, all the way till the kid was like 18 or 19 years old. And so in terms of that, it's very interesting as a filmmaker to watch that and think about the logistics that went into, because there's a guy that was in like the movie, the first 20 minutes of the movie, and he's back in the last 20 minutes of the movie, and you realize like 7 years have gone by between when we last saw him and not. And so just the logistics of producing that stuff, like you sort of geek out on how they made it.
If you're a filmmaker.
But the whole growing up on film thing was not. I was glad to see that wasn't gimmicky. They literally would just sometimes, like, the most gimmicky thing they did is he went up to his bedroom, and then when he came back down in the next cut, he was a year older. His hair was different. You could just tell. It was never. No attention was ever drawn to the fact that, okay, this is where we shifted. We never dissolve and say 1 year later, any of that. It just cut, and it was a year later. So that part was really good. It's very Richard Linklater is very sort of like experimental filmmaker, and that's what I love about him. He's also very existential a lot of times in his stories, which means they don't always have like an obvious point. I feel like you're watching them and you get out of it what you take out of it, like when you look at a painting. So when I went to see it, I really liked it because of what it was, but I didn't love the details of what happened from scene to scene to scene as much as I liked the idea of the movie, if that makes any sense.
So if you were forced to like give it a rating and a quick summary of why you would rate it that, what would it be?
I mean, if we're going out of stars, like I'm gonna give it like 4 or 4.5 stars
Out of
5.
Okay.
And I would say it's really good, and it's definitely an experience. You like have to see it to appreciate it for what they did with it.
So to me, 4.5 stars means you recommend.
I recommend it.
Everybody see it.
I recommend it.
At least once.
I recommend it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because of the unique experience, also, like you're seeing a movie that's never been done before. You've seen something and there's no special effects. There's no, hey, look at this 3D thing zooming out at you. It's like it's a kid growing up in front of your eyes, and that by itself is very interesting.
See, you've convinced me to watch it now.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap it up for this week. We've got a lot more stuff that we want to do. Like I said, we want to do some interviews, and I actually want to concentrate on some of our local filmmakers, because I realized over the years that I know a lot of people on Twitter who I've worked with and want to work with, but because of that, I've sort of ignored my local people. And I feel like they don't know me and I don't know them, but through working with a person here and there, I meet and realize that there are some really talented people in my local area, and I don't have to be such a snob about where I am, and I shouldn't be, because everybody is just trying to tell a story. So we're going to do interviews with local people and filmmakers around the world or whatever.
We got an interview with Jeannie. Jeannie?
Yeah, we're going to have Jeannie from Script Magazine on, who's somebody that, I worked with on my last film. She's a writer and a producer.
That'll be cool.
And basically,
man, the best parts about that film was the writing and the producing
and the music.
Oh, I agree.
I got to tell you, man. I always say this.
My ego says
when is that
yes.
coming out?
What is this?
Get the. I almost cussed.
When
are you gonna fracking edit it?
It's done. It's done. We're just
We'll crap it out then.
No, you can't crap it out, because it's a thing of beauty.
Come on, movies are never finished. They just escape.
Yeah, it's dude. I showed it to you 6 months ago. It's done. It hadn't changed since then. I don't know what do you want from me. That's another thing we're going to talk about, is how like navigating the whole film festival thing as we have stuff come out that we want to put out. It's like, I'm no expert at it. I'm horrible at self-promotion. Hence, certain things that have come to light recently.
Hence the podcast.
And
drink.
So that just a bunch of stuff, and but this time we just wanted to sit in and talk and give everybody an idea of what our points of view are and stuff like that. Let's listen to us chit chat for a little bit.
We like hearing ourselves talk, and we thought maybe you might too.
Yeah, chit chat for a little bit. But a couple of things you need to know. Filmreverie.com is it's the IE version of Reverie. Filmrevie.com. That's where you can go look at the blog and stuff like that we're going to start writing on and
get the latest podcast.
Yeah. And if you want to send us an email, it is filmreveriepodcast@gmail.com. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, it is @filmreverie. And that's it.
Yay!
So that's it for this time. Rob, it's awesome. It's always awesome talking to you. It's like sort of like we killed two birds with one stone, because I got to talk to you and we did a podcast. So.
And I got to meet you for the first time.
And meet Brad.
Yes, which was the best part of the entire thing for me.
Yay.
Getting to meet Brad
I'm
or talking
important.
to him?
Yes, getting to meet Brad.
Somebody loves me. Yes.
Well,
it made it easier to put up with having to talk to Beckmeyer.
Seriously. My God. He loves to talk about himself.
Nobody loves
me. Plug.
He loves to do lots of things with himself. Anyway,
yeah.
It was great.
Skin flute.
It was great to be here.
That's hashtag skin flute.
Shut up, Brad. He's trying to say it's good.
Come on, hashtag skin flute.
Rob, I really appreciate it. It's fun talking to you as always. I hope you do well, and feel free to come back anytime if we didn't ruin your idea of how much fun this would be by doing it the first time.
We would like to have you on every episode if we could.
He's not going to do that.
Yes, I'd be happy to come on and make Beckmeyer look bad.
Yeah, maybe sometime, maybe soon.
On a weekly basis.
I have a buddy with,
sometime soon where it's not so first episode awkwardness will be,
Saying that it was awkward and pointing it out just made it awkward.
Yes, exactly. It wasn't until you
Don't
said
you
that.
know that I
job.
have a love for awkward silences, awkwardness?
Well, shut up,
it's one of my
then.
favorite things.
If I was there at the house right now, this would be the point where Brad and I would just get up and quietly walk out.
Yeah, exactly.
And it would be perfectly funny.
When is this going to end? This is the end of the show, and we're just not shutting up.
Okay.
The end.
Film Reverie is a production of Broken Sunset Films, LLC. It was created and is produced under a Creative Commons license by Michael Beckemeyer and Bradley Kingston. Copyright Broken Sunset Films, LLC, 2014.